welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I am great, Kyle. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Hey, my pleasure, and thank you for asking me.
It's what I do.
It is.
Every Thursday at 4:30, I ask you, how are you doing, Jeff?
You know, I know if no matter how bad my week is going, I know at least Thursday at 4:30, somebody is going to ask a question. Yes.
Someone cares, right? Well, this has been an interesting week for us, Jeff.
Unbelievable is probably the better way of saying it.
It really has been. It's amazing. Of course, we work with the Huntsman World Senior Games, and we opened our online registration on the 1st of March, which this year happened to fall on a Sunday.
12:01 Sunday morning, yeah.
12:01 a.m. on Sunday morning, we received our first registrations, because we had multiple people who registered. They stayed up. They set their alarms.
Either that or they were in California, and it wasn't quite midnight there.
It wasn't quite midnight yet. That's possible, too. Either way, when the second that the floodgates opened, the flood began.
Yes. And it's still flooding.
And it is still flooding. I woke up on Sunday morning, get ready for my day, ready for what was going to go on that day for me, and I grabbed my phone to see what was going on, and I get an email notice when a registration comes in.
And your box was full.
Yes, I had several hundred email notices. So during the middle of the night, people were up and registering for the Huntsman World Senior Games. And as you said, the floodgates have continued.
They've not
to
closed.
Flood. No, they have not.
Nor have the rainwaters receded or slowed down because the waters are still running in.
They keep coming in, and that's great. That is great. Obviously, that's exciting for us. We want people to come and be a part of the games.
Well, do you have any idea of what sports are doing what, Kyle?
I do. I'm glad you asked. Because I just happen to have some numbers that I thought people might find interesting.
That paper right in front of you.
The one that's in front of me has some of the numbers on it. So really, registration has gone phenomenally, and so let me just preempt anything that we have to say today with the statement of now is a great time to register. With one exception.
Yes, for
and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. We have a ton of teams that have come in. Our biggest sport at the Huntsman World Senior Games is softball. Right now, we are sitting at 180 teams. We figure we'll cap right around 330, so we're over halfway there.
A little over halfway there.
So we anticipate more teams coming in. We have 131 volleyball teams.
Very impressive.
So we're doing very well with volleyball as well. Bowling is another sport that tends to fill up rather quickly for us. We have 167 individual athletes who have registered for bowling, which is amazing.
Again,
it's only Thursday. We've only been open for 4.5 days.
5 days,
counting the Sunday, right? So the big one, the one that I had mentioned that is, I think, surprising everyone.
Do you have a drum roll for us, Tegan?
No drum roll.
All right.
Well, I don't think it's a big surprise to anybody. It's pickleball.
And how is pickleball doing, Kyle?
Pickleball has just gone amazingly well from a registration standpoint for the games. We actually had to close registration for pickleball because we had reached our participation cap after only 3 days.
3 days. Now, is all lost for the pickleballers out there?
It is not all lost. Even though we've had to officially close pickleball registration, we are accepting a waiting list, and let me just really emphasize that please put your name on the waiting list. This early in the registration process, there's a very, very good chance that there will be cancellations, and we'll be filling holes from that waiting list. There's a lot of people who are looking for partners. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen between now and when the games happen, so please get your name on a waiting list.
If memory serves right, last year we were able to get pretty much everybody that was on the waiting list.
A lot of people.
Into the game.
A lot of people. We weren't able to get every single individual, but some of that depended on the schedules of the people on the waiting list. So, but it was amazing. Last year, we registered so quickly for pickleball. It took us 22 days to close, and we thought, wow, that's amazing. 3 weeks. It's crazy. This year, it took 3 days.
So next year's at 3 hours?
It might be. It might be. It's amazing. Anyway, a total of 882 people, 882 athletes.
Almost 10% of what we expect to register this year.
Yeah, we're expecting somewhere between 10 and 11,000. 4.5 days, almost 10%. About 8% of our total athletes have already registered, which is just astounding.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing. We're very excited about it. Very, very excited about it. And we're also excited about our guest today.
Yes, we are.
We've been talking about the number of athletes who have registered for the event, and today we have one of these amazing athletes that's joining us. So Marianne Hamilton lives here in St. George now, and is proud to call herself an athlete at the Huntsman World Senior Games and has been for the past several years. So Marianne, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for inviting me on here. It's a huge, huge pleasure to be on today.
Well, thanks for arranging your schedule so that you can. Marianne specializes in race walking, and she has medaled several times at the games. And again, we're just excited to have you with us. So let's get to know you a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about yourself. When you started out in life, were you always an athlete? Were you always as fit as you are today?
Kyle, I was so far from being fit. It was it was pretty appalling. I grew up in Sacramento, California.
Okay.
And I was the only daughter after 3 sons. And so I was.
Really, so you weren't spoiled at all.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
And 3 Italian older brothers. So you know.
Oh my.
Yeah, you know what that was like. And so I was really sort of raised to be really a girly girl.
Yeah.
And I was never ever encouraged to do anything athletic or sports minded. I'm still an athletic goober, really. I mean, I still can't swim. I can't play tennis.
Can you say goober on the radio?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I think so.
And I didn't learn how to ride a bike until pretty late in life. So I was really not, preordained to be medaling at the Huntsman World Senior Games. But I actually was pretty overweight and kind of bookwormy growing up as well. And but somehow during my 30s, I thought that maybe jogging might be a good thing. And so, because that was sort of when the craze took hold in California. And so I jogged a bit, never very well or very far, but, enough to sort of feel like I was doing something. And then eventually had some surgery on my neck. I started doing some weightlifting and I got kind of obsessive about it. And I pulled a disc out of my neck.
Oh.
Which was really not good. So my neurosurgeon said, no more running.
No more bouncing on your neck.
Exactly. Nothing like that. And so I was pretty devastated about that.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But during my rehab, I started walking around the neighborhood and as I felt better, I started walking faster and faster. And then I don't know, for whatever reason, my body sort of fell into that weird wiggle walk that race walkers have. It's a really funny looking sport for sure, I understand. And then over the years, was able to train with a couple of Olympic race walkers, which was kind of wonderful. And they helped me refine my technique. And then, I found the Huntsman World Senior Games. There aren't that many places where one can race walk competitively.
Right.
Because it's a pretty...
At least not in this country.
It's a little bit of a specialized sport, yeah.
Not in this country. So my husband and I were looking online one evening for race walking events, and we found this multi-sport competition dedicated to people our age and older, and we thought, that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah.
And we came to St. George, I think it was your 25th anniversary, 2011.
4 years ago.
I think that was the first time we met, yeah.
Exactly. And just fell in love with St. George the minute I walked in here. And last year, 2 years ago, we said, gee, California doesn't look so good anymore. Utah's looking really wonderful. And we spent all of our time when we weren't competing during the games looking for houses. Went home, put our house on the market, and we were here in January of last year.
Wow.
And never looked back.
That's awesome. Well, Marianne, you covered a ton of things there. I want to rewind and ask you a few questions.
Sure.
So you started out, you weren't really engaged in sports as a young girl.
Not
you
at all.
said in your 30s is when you started jogging. What kind of was the tipping point? When did you say, I'm not doing anything, I'm ready to start, and I'm going to start jogging? Like, what helped you make that decision?
I think it was a sense of, I was tired of the body that I was in. I knew that it had some extra weight, and I didn't like where I was physically. And jogging just seemed like something that didn't require a great deal of athletic skill. All you have to do is get a good pair of shoes and go out there and try and walk and run. And so it seemed something that was in my grasp. I mean, tennis or swimming or those kinds of sports just seemed so far beyond anything I could do. But jogging seemed like it was possible. And I did that, and I enjoyed it. And the first time I crossed the finish line completing a 10K was just like, I thought I had, won the lottery. It was so amazing for me as a non-athletic person. And so I stayed with that for many years. And I never got very fast. I was never more than maybe a 10-minute miler. But I enjoyed it.
And yet you still loved it.
I did.
Loved it.
And
that's great.
I met a lot of people through that community in the area where we lived, and ran together, and it was really fun.
And so, did you find yourself regularly competing at races, or was it more just a morning jog and that started your day off, or how did you get into the competition?
I really did. I started looking for 10Ks in the area, and started collecting ribbons and things. I mean, I certainly was never
and T-shirts.
Yeah, the T-shirts, exactly. I had the whole wardrobe. And it was just, I know this sounds really lame, but for somebody who had grown up that way, being unathletic, those were sort of talismans that I was actually changing the person that I used to be into somebody else. And nobody was telling me that I couldn't do it. I was doing it myself. And that was kind of it was a real moral victory for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you started running. Did you found that some of the pounds came off and you started to feel better about yourself, and then you thought, hey, I'm going to branch out. I've been running. This is great. Yeah. Let's get into weights.
Exactly. I had joined a gym, and I'm not quite sure which came first, whether it was the social aspect of being at the gym every morning with my friends, or the working out. I enjoyed the social aspect so much. I was going every morning. I was going 6 days a week. And unfortunately, I hadn't really, at that particular gym, which shall remain nameless, there was no one there to actually guide me in the weightlifting routine. No coaching, exactly. And so I was doing it a little bit too often with the same muscles. And so ultimately I paid a price for that. I was really enjoying the fact that I was getting muscles, and it was, my back looked really ripped and good, and I liked that. But over time, a disc in my neck just went,
it just popped out.
Went to pieces. And the neurosurgeon was picking pieces of it out of my muscles.
Wow.
It was pretty ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So were you actually at the gym when the injury occurred?
It was sort of a cumulative thing that happened over time.
Okay.
And I started experiencing pain, and after about 6 to 8 weeks, it was just excruciating, and the pain was radiating down my left arm to the point where it was unbearable.
And up to that point, you're just kind of like, well, no pain, no gain. I'll just train through it. And,
exactly.
all those things we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went for an MRI at Stanford, and they said, oh, no, this does not look good. The only way that we'll cure this is through surgery. So I had the disc between your C6 and 7 vertebrae removed, and had my vertebrae fused together. And the wonderful thing was that the minute I had woken up in the recovery room, I started laughing because I felt so good. The pain was gone. It was wonderful. But then there was that price to pay, which was that I could no longer run, according to my neurosurgeon. So that was just really, really sad news.
Yeah, I'm sure that it was. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life, and we're visiting with Marianne Hamilton, who is a race walker at the Huntsman World Senior Games, and she's talking about her journey from non-athlete to actually very quite athletic, and that's kind of cool.
To successful athlete.
Yeah, successfully athletic. That's wonderful. So you say you woke up, your neurosurgeon says no more running, mentally and emotionally, and I mean that's got to be hard to hear.
Yes, all the things, the weightlifting obviously was gone. That's not going to happen anymore, and that was really a huge setback for me. And then the not running, and so I thought, oh my gosh, my body's finally at a place where I feel really comfortable in my skin. Now what do I do?
Now I'm going to lose that.
Yeah. So all I could really do during my rehab was go for slow walks around the neighborhood. That was about all I could manage. I was still wearing a neck brace, which I had to have on for.
Don't want to mess
No.
You
have to let the fusion heal for quite a while. Yeah. So I was walking, and then as I felt better, I just started picking up the pace, and that was, March of 1996, and I then, being the somewhat obsessive type that I am, I met some ladies that summer who said they were all training for a marathon. I'd never done one before.
Yeah.
But these were women who were not the physical type that you would expect would be marathoners. And I thought, well, gee, they're doing that. They're going to walk it. Maybe I can do that. So I started walking with these ladies and started walking a little bit faster and faster. And I, in fact, ended up doing my first marathon that December in Honolulu.
Wow.
Honolulu Marathon.
Tough place to do a marathon.
It's a little toasty.
If you're going to go big, you might as well go big in Hawaii, right?
Yes. But, training in California in November is a little different than running or walking in Hawaii in December. So it was kind of silly, but it was really, really fun. And I did complete it.
I'll bet. A great experience. I mean, once again, what an incredible victory for you.
Well, it was, again, it was a real moral victory to think crossing that finish line for the marathon was like nothing that I'd ever experienced until my first time at the Huntsman World Senior Games, of course, and becoming overall champion in 2012.
Wow. Now a marathon's a long ways. That's 26.2 miles.
Yes.
That's a long way.
And it's pretty toasty in Hawaii and very, very, very humid. So it was kind of
it was trying.
It was trying for sure. But, I went with about 10 women and we really had a great time.
That's awesome.
That's good. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when were you actually introduced to the sport of race walking? Up to this point, you're just kind of walking fast, what we would call maybe power walking. Mm-hmm. When were you introduced to race walking, and when did that become a part of your life?
I think it was about a year later. I was competing in a half marathon with a girlfriend. We were doing what we called power walking.
Yeah.
And we were coming towards the finish, and a man was behind us, and he looked at me and he said, I was wearing some sort of T-shirt from the Bay Area, I forget, for some race. And he said, "Oh, do you train with so-and-so? He's the man named Art Klein. He's the coach of the Santa Cruz Track Club, and he teaches race walkers." And I said, "Oh, what's race walking?"
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, and he said, "Well, it's what you're doing." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, if you just have a couple of lessons with him, I'm sure he'll be able to refine your technique." So I went home and a few days later called Art and arranged to have some lessons with him. And the first time I went out with him, I thought I was going to die because he taught me the real official race walking technique, which is that your toes must be up when your heel hits back up. Yeah. So when you run, basically you land on the balls of your feet. Race walking, you land on your heel with your toes up. And as a consequence, the shin muscle gets very, very developed over time, but not right away.
Yeah, not that first time.
Not that first time. And it really, really, really hurts. And so I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? But Art was lovely, and he really helped me over time. And that was kind of how I got started. And then he encouraged me to start competing in race walking events in the Bay Area. Uh-huh. And amazingly enough, I started going home with some medals and thought, well, this is kind of cool. And,
well, I love how humble you are, and you say amazingly enough, but I look at you and I've seen you race, and I've seen the passion that you have for the sport and just for athletics in general and being in shape and trying to take care of yourself. And so to me, it's such an obvious thing, of course, but I love how you've gone on this journey and been able to really, as you said, become the person that you always wanted to be.
Now, I'm curious to hear about your first experience. What you first experienced when you came to the games?
Oh my gosh. I'm not kidding. From the moment that we showed up for registration on the Sunday of the first day of the games, I walked into the Dixie Center and thought, I am in this amazing parallel universe with all of these fit, happy people who are my age, and they're all going to be competing in events. It was just, I couldn't really process it. It was really overwhelming. And then I was so terrified the next morning to compete on that kind of a level with this huge amount of people. It was pretty daunting, I have to say, the first year. Mm-hmm. But again, the minute that we all started talking to each other, it was just, I know people think I'm Pollyanna and really, really silly when I talk about this stuff, but I'm very, very passionate about it because everybody was so welcoming and so friendly and just so happy to be there. And the fact that they welcomed me into the fold was just, really kind of magical. The woman who was the reigning race walking champion, Donna Graham from Ohio, was really, really encouraging. She and I have remained friends since then. We communicate on email pretty regularly, and she's always encouraging me about different races. And she kind of took me under her wing and coached me and told me what to watch out for and how to kind of get through the next few days. And never had I experienced that before. In other races, people are sort of, looking at each other and sizing
against each other, right?
They're sizing up the competition. And here it's just like, well, here, let me give you a hug, let me give you a massage. You need some pins for your bib, whatever you need. It's like nothing I'd ever experienced.
I was going to say that sounds like a very unique experience in the world of competitive sports.
Very much so, very, very much so.
But very common here at the games.
Very common here.
And we love that that's the way that it is. The games were founded on these principles of fostering worldwide peace, health, and friendship. And there definitely are those elements in what we do at the games, especially the friendship element.
It shows, I think, all the way through all the way through. I mean, in every event that I've attended, I felt that way for sure.
What was your? Did you go to the opening ceremonies your first?
Oh, of course.
Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. So we of course met Norm and Kathy Frabel, who are the race walking directors.
Right.
And I think because I was just so insanely happy to be there, giggling all the time and smiling, for whatever reason, Norm allowed me for the opening ceremonies, for the Parade of Athletes. Each sport has the flag that they carry in with the title of the sport.
Right.
And so Norm said, "Do you want to carry in the race walking flag?" And I just thought I was carrying in the United States flag into the opening of the Olympics, you know. And it was really, really a special experience. Yes.
Well, describe what that's like, because a lot of people have seen the opening ceremonies, but
Yes.
they don't know what it's like to be an athlete, to march around the stadium and go and sit down to the fan.
It is like, I mean, again, it's Pollyanna here, but I was weeping. and Kyle, you and your team put on this splendid, amazing spectacle every year. You outdo yourselves every year, and all the dancers and the kids who get involved. And that's one of the most wonderful aspects, is all these kids are there welcoming, you know, all of us old people into their city and into this event. And it feels like nothing. It's really glorious. It is.
It is a very, very special event for sure. And everything about it is just the way that you've described it is the way that we hope our athletes feel. We want them to feel welcomed. We want them to feel special. We want them to feel that amazing Olympic style feeling that an Olympic athlete might feel wherever those games are held. We want people to feel that way when they come to St. George. And
it absolutely comes across. And the caliber, the spectacle of the event is just really, really top drawer. It's wonderful.
Well, I remember the first time that I met Marianne and her awesome husband. I was out at the race walking event, and I was just there checking on things like I do during the games, and as Jeff does during the games. We are out and about, often interacting with people, and this wonderful couple from California just came up, and they were so warm and so complimentary. And I just thought, I hope we can always live up to their expectations, because they've really had such a great time. And they came back again the next year, and we met, and then we saw each other at the Nationals. And it's just we've had this great friendship, and I was so excited.
You're stuck with us, Kyle.
I was so excited to hear when they decided to move to St. George, because I knew they'd be a real asset to the community as well as to the games.
That's not a bad thing, Marianne. That's not.
Okay.
That's a good thing to be stuck with you.
Thank you.
So we're running a little short on time, but if you had any advice for someone who is just on the bubble of should I, shouldn't I, what would you tell them?
I would say if you're vacillating at all, just do it. Don't worry that you're not going to, come home with a medal. Don't worry that you're going to come in last. Just be there. It's like nothing you'll ever experience, and it's life changing. It really is life changing. That's all I can say. It's the best.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, but more importantly, thanks for being a part of the games in the way that you are. You really are a great. You're an ambassador. You just have such a passion and such an excitement for the sport of race walking and the Huntsman World Senior Games in general. It's just a joy to be around you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. I hope I'll be here for the next at least 30 years or so.
At least. We're counting.
We're planning. We've got you penciled in.
Okay, I'll be 92 by then. That'll be great.
Well, then maybe 40 years.
Well, that is all the time that we have for today, but we're sure appreciative of Marianne for her time. Thanks again for being with us.
Thanks, Kyle.
As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, online registration is open, and athletes are definitely registering. And if you are 50 years or older, then you can too.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
and should.
As
Marianne just told you, do it.
Just do it. For information on any of the 27 different sports that we offer, you can, of course, visit our website at www.seniorgames.net. And there you'll find rules, schedules. As I mentioned, you can register for any of those 27 sports, with the exception of pickleball, which, amazing as it is, it's already reached its participation cap.
I might also add, you can learn about our extracurricular activities, the non-sport specific activities that we do.
The ceremonies that we talked about,
the
our
dinner
concert
dance,
celebration,
the Global Cup.
All those great events and information about them are online. So take advantage of that online resource and visit us. We mentioned that pickleball is closed. I want to just once again emphasize that you can be put on a waiting list. and we definitely encourage you to do so. Don't just give up hope and say, oh, it's closed, it's not going to happen for me. We can't guarantee that we'll get everyone in, but if you're not on the list, we can guarantee that we won't get you in.
Yes.
So please take advantage of that. It's just as simple as registering. You go right to the website, you click on pickleball, you go through what appears to be a registration process, but instead of registering, you end up on the waiting list. And again, please take advantage of that. So once again, www.seniorgames.net to register, and go ahead and do it today.
That's right.
And don't forget to tune in next Thursday, where we'll continue to explore the active life on AM 1450 or FM 93.1 for those who are listening live and local. For those of you outside the area, you can listen to this and any previous episode right from our website. And once again, I'm going to give that to you at www.seniorgames.net. So here's a closing thought.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is a good one. At least I think it's a good one. How do you know you're old enough to be a senior athlete? Instead of lying about your age, you start bragging about it.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Until next Thursday, stay active.
Stay strong.